Sky High Production, guys, and today I have for y'all the last preview for the NBA playoffs, to preview between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals. Now, with both of these teams, they've beat their respective competition handily to get here, and as much as people want to say that injuries play a part in this series, I feel as though both of these teams deserve their spot. I feel as though they just did what they had to do. They beat the competition in front of them, and they just played their best basketball that they could, and now they're here. So, with both of these teams, I feel as though the number one thing that's going to come into play in this series, and it's pretty much been a factor in the whole playoffs, is health. Specifically, the health of Giannis. In this series, the Bucks need Giannis. They need his, not only his scoring potential, the amount of points he put up, because we know Giannis is a player that could regularly put up 30 points, 12 rebounds, give you some blocks, give you some steals, but they're really going to need those points, and they're most importantly going to need his defense, especially his defensive versatility, especially guarding the pick and roll with players like CP3 and Devin Booker on the side of the Suns. Because both Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they're great ball handlers and they're great playmakers, especially Chris Paul on his end. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bucks play that, because I suspect the Suns to do what they've been doing all season and run a lot of pick and roll offense, and it's going to start freeing up a lot of area in that mid-range space. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bucks play that, because a lot of the Bucks defense is based on drop coverage. When a screen is set, the defender of the person that's setting the screen usually drops back, and that's usually a good play to run. However, it's not going to work against someone like Devin Booker and someone like Chris Paul, who's so dynamic in the mid-range area. If you give those two just a sliver of space, they're going to make that shot. And if they don't make that shot, they're going to try to find an open player, because if you give them enough space, they're going to see who's open, they're going to see who's cutting, it's going to see who's trying to spot up for threes. And when you do that, you allow them to open up the game so much for not just themselves, but also their teammates. Which is why I make such a heavy note on Giannis' availability, because Brook Lopez, although he is a pretty good defender, more specifically in the post, he's not that great when it comes to perimeter defense, and especially when it comes to keeping up with faster players on the perimeter who can just easily blow by him or hit him with a few dribble moves to size him up and get an open shot. So with Giannis, you're not going to be able to do that, because Giannis is very fast, he's very athletic. Everyone knows that Giannis is a great defender. So when you have someone like Giannis stepping up on those shooters and those ball handlers, instead of someone like Brook Lopez, it's going to add a little bit more pressure for them. And when you add that pressure, it causes more mistakes. But the Bucks as a whole have to step up on defense, especially Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday. I suspect them to be playing heavy minutes in this series, because in a series against the Suns, especially when in the previous two series your bench has been looking kind of shoddy, they haven't been the most consistent, which is another thing that I feel is going to come into play in this series, is who bench can be more consistent throughout the whole series. However, with Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday, you're going to need them to step up defensively, because they're going to be the one task with guarding Chris Paul and guarding Devin Booker. Now, I suspect what Mike Budenholzer is going to do for a lot of the series is try to have PJ Tucker on Devin Booker, because if you have someone like Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton guarding Devin Booker and Chris Paul for the whole series, that's going to be asking a lot from them to not only lock down the two best perimeter defenders, the two best perimeter players on the next team, but also to provide you 25 to 30 points, some assists at the same time. That's a lot to ask for your star players, and I know they're star players for a reason, but they're still human, and that's still going to cost a lot of energy. And this Suns team has a lot of defenders that they can throw at those two. If you get someone like Crowder, you get someone like Mikal Bridges, you get someone like Cam Johnson, you throw in all these defenders at Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton. We've seen in the last series against the Hawks, if you put a good enough defender on those two, you could potentially slow them down a little bit, and a few plays here and there, just slowing them two down, can win you a game or two, and all in all can win you the series. Now, I don't suspect Chris Middleton, who's really the second star for the Bucks right now, I don't suspect him to just drop off the cliff when the series come. But he is someone that has his consistency in question sometimes. We've seen him go have games where he can put up 35 points on great efficiency with a good amount of rebounds. But then he'll come back in the next game and just have 20 points on horrible efficiency, not that good defense, and he's just a negative on the floor. And you're also going to need Jrue Holiday to be consistent as well, especially on the defensive end. Well, on offense as well, just because the Bucks don't have that much offensive firepower besides their 3 stars. But when you have Jrue Holiday on the court, you're going to need him to be sticking on Chris Paul and making it a tough time, because the worse Chris Paul play, the worse the Suns play as a whole. Now, when the Suns decide to throw in Campaign inside there and he pushes the pace a little bit more, that is going to help. But at the same time, that just may lean in favor of the Bucks more when they have Giannis at the 5, which is a lineup I suspect them to run a lot. When they have Giannis at the 5, the Bucks are just a much better team as a whole. And it just opens up the game so much for everybody else on the court. It just allows Chris Middleton, Jrue Holiday to hit their spots when they need to. If you want to, you can throw in shooters in the game. You can throw in Brent Forbes and hope he can give you some type of consistent production, because they're really going to need that in the series. And then you're going to hope that PJ Tucker can also hit his shots, because in the last series as well, he's also been inconsistent. And that's been the real story for the Bucks, is that their stars have been showing up, but their bench haven't been consistent. And that's pretty much the opposite of what the Suns have been doing this whole playoffs run. The Suns role players have been showing up for them, and I kind of trust the Suns role players more in this series than the Bucks, because with the Bucks, you're going to be relying on Ben Forbes, you're going to be relying on PJ Tucker for some minutes. But with the injuries to the team, you're also going to be relying on Jeff Teague and Bobby Portis, who has been providing you some, good minutes so far, but you're going to need him to step up, and I'm not sure if he can do that in this type of setting. And the Suns, their most consistent player for the whole playoff, but I'm not going to say their best player, because in moments their best player has been Chris Paul and Devin Booker, but their most consistent player has definitely been DeAndre Ayton at the center position. And they're really going to need his defense in this series, especially with someone like Giannis, whose main goal always on the court is to get in the paint and score around the paint. So with Giannis at the 5, going to see how DeAndre Ayton plays. I hope he can stay aggressive, because once DeAndre Ayton is aggressive, I think the Suns are at their best. And once his aggression is on, I feel like it's going to help the Suns on the offensive end and the defensive end, because you can't stop Giannis entirely. That's practically impossible. However, we've seen the teams who have been able to build up this kind of wall against him. If you can throw a Jay Crowder on him at the perimeter, and as he starts to dive, you bring over DeAndre Ayton to be the help defender, that can provide some type of resistance against him. And that slight resistance against him may just be enough to win you the series. But stopping someone like Giannis, who's so aggressive, who's so strong, and who can just get to the rim at will, and he's very great at drawing fouls. I know people like to clown Giannis on how long it takes him to shoot free throws, but you've seen in these playoffs that he's been a pretty consistent free throw shooter. Once he can give you at least about 70 or so % from the free throw line, it doesn't really matter how long he's going to take to shoot the free throw once it's going to fall. And if Giannis can draw those fouls, play consistently from the free throw line, and stay on the court and be healthy, most importantly, it's going to be very difficult for the Suns to slow that down if everyone else around Giannis is also doing what they need to do. But in this series, though, my prediction at the end of the day, if Giannis comes back, because as of right now he's listed as doubtful, if Giannis comes back, let's say game 1 or game 2, even if he misses game 1, or even if he plays game 1, I have the Suns taking the series in 6, just because I feel like the Suns players are more consistent and you can rely on them more. We see in the last series, Chris Paul had a few bad games, but when it mattered the most, like in game 6, he showed up. And when it mattered the most for Devin Booker, he showed up. And of course, you want to hope that Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday can do the same on the Bucks end. But I feel as though the Suns just have too much great defenders that you can throw at those players to disrupt them enough to the point where the Suns can edge out a victory. But at the end of the day, those are just my thoughts and opinions. Please let me know what you think down below. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that. Click the little notification bell so you know when I post next time. And yeah, that's it, guys. Peace.
What is there to say? You be on my mind. You stay on my mind. You are so astonishing, girl.